Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to another webinar in the series here at Abhyas, the Institute of Universal Awareness. My name is Priya. I'm dialing in from Mauritius today. Beautiful country, very sunny here. And today we are going to be talking on the theme of facing challenges as is, which is all about embracing challenges and seeing them as an opportunity for growth. So this session we're having today, it differentiates between coping with challenges and confronting them directly. Coping actually keeps us focused on managing the situation, whereas true growth comes from addressing its root cause. The challenge we're facing into an opportunity for growth, simply by asking ourselves, what is this situation trying to teach me? True growth emerges when we evolve beyond our challenges that we face. Essentially, we use these challenges as a stepping stone for deeper transformation. So for all of our lovely audience who are joining today, please feel free to pop in the chat. Where are you calling in from? Which country are you listening to this webinar from? It would be really great to know. So these webinars that we are running are designed to bring together a community of like-minded individuals to expand their awareness based on a topic that we set here at Abhyas. However, these webinars are not designed to provide any solutions to our participants. And our vision here at Abhyas is through the application of experiential knowledge. Abhyas envisions a paradigm shift in society's perspective, equipping it with the ability to face the challenge as is, which is our topic today. Our mission here at Abhyas is that Abhyas is committed to equip individuals with equal opportunities by providing professional training to impart courses on mental well-being, creating a better future for themselves and for humanity at large. And as our founder Namdev says, all transformations have one thing in common, the turnaround in the perspective on all of what they have been through. So today, we will be having our chat moderated by our Abhyas team. So please feel free, audience, to pop your questions, comments into the chat throughout the duration of our webinar, and we'll be watching that for you as well. So I'd like to take this moment now, an opportunity to introduce our lovely panel members today. And it's a very special group here today, as most of them are from Australia, which is where I have spent most of my life. So I'm really pleased and delighted to introduce our first panel member, which is Ian. Ian is a transformational business coach with over 30 years of experience helping leaders, teams, and high achievers unlock their full potential. His work goes beyond mindset shifts. He helps leaders lead differently by thinking differently. He combines change management, neuroscience, behavioral science, and practical emotional intelligence. Ian's approach empowers clients to break away from old patterns, rewire limiting beliefs, and lead with clarity, intention, and impact. The result is Ian's work is focused on real transformation for individuals, teams, and entire organizations. Welcome, Ian. Thanks for being with us here today.
Thank
Our
you.
next, our next panel member I'd like to introduce is Rubina. So Rubina is a transformational coach and trainer specializing in people skills for corporate professionals. Her signature programs include leadership, emotional intelligence, customer focus, and personal branding. A certified master NLP practitioner and Enneagram practitioner, she is also an associate coach with the International Association of Coaching Institutes, formerly Deputy CEO of the Mauritius Sugar Syndicate. Rubina holds a bachelor's in commerce and an MSc in marketing management. She is an MQA registered trainer and certified image consultant with extensive experience in training and lecturing. Welcome, Rubina. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Priya. Pleasure.
Our next speaker today is Julie. Julie is a leader who has grown into who she is today. Someone known for her empathy, her can-do attitude, resilience, and humor. She tends to take on challenges, seeing them as opportunities. She is an experienced Australian public servant who has worked across government, non-government, and private sectors. Thank you, Julie, for joining us today. Welcome. And our final panel member today is Jane. Jane, Jane is an experienced client partner, specializing in analytics, AI, digital transformation, and cybersecurity within the federal government sector. She has successfully led teams and launched a new analytics and AI provider into the Australian government market. Jane excels in customizing global capabilities for local market needs, and she mentors aspiring women in technology. As the founder of Women in Big Data Australia, she advocates for women in STEM and co-hosts the Women Count podcast. Jane holds an MBA and a Bachelor of Economics. Thank you, Jane. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
All right, so that's our lovely panel members. I'm really looking forward to our enriching conversations coming up shortly in our panel discussion. But just before I switch on to that area, I'd really like to hear from you, our lovely participants. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and I'd just like you to take just a couple of moments, maximum 20, 30 seconds, to just pop in your question, pop in your answers into your chat box for the questions that I'm going to ask. So the first question is, in one word, what's your biggest challenge right now? All right, excellent. Good to hear. I can see we have somebody else joining in from Unlock Synergies in Mauritius. Welcome. Fantastic. So what we'll do is we'll move on ahead into the motivation. Yes. Solopreneurship, managing alone. Okay. Really interesting how we can come up with our creative words when we observe ourselves more and more when we're dealing with challenges. Keep those comments coming through. From here, we're going to move into our panel discussion. And so here we have about 30 minutes, but of course we can just go with the flow and see how things unfold. So the first question that I would like to have to ask the panel members today is, what are the repercussions of merely coping with challenges? So Ian, I'd like to ask for you to contribute to this question first, please. Thanks, Ian.
Okay, so repercussions. Well, the biggest repercussions when you're trying to cope with a challenge is that you're really coping out of your memory, or trying to cope out of what you think it should look like. And you're not actually coping from a place of just being in the moment at a particular time. I was thinking about this. If I can just share a brief story which can highlight this. I was having a really frustrating day, and I was driving behind a fellow who was going, in my mind, slowly, but he was actually going at the speed limit. And I was getting really angry and frustrated until I got the insight, which was, I'm having the thought that he is driving slowly. And just by saying I'm having the thought that he's driving slowly, I was able to kind of distance myself from the issue and actually just go, well, actually, he's driving according to the speed limits, and I'm just having a thought. And by virtue of the fact that I just recognize I'm just having the thought, and it wasn't anything else other than that thought, I was able just to let it go and allow. And so when it comes to coping with challenges, it's to recognize, in my view anyway, it's just to recognize that, hey, those challenges, the way it's just, we were talking about this earlier, it's just the way you are perceiving them. Because, as Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, if you change the way you look at things, then the things you look at change. And, we know that from a scientific perspective, that we can actually change the way things happen by the way we observe them, the observer effect. So I just think that when we're trying to cope, even the word cope has connotations of struggle, of, oh, how am I going to manage this? And I just think that there's a way through that. And the way through it is just to recognize that actually it's the way you're looking at it and the way you're thinking about it, which is creating, if you like, the challenge.
Thanks, Ian. Absolutely. Rubina, what are your thoughts on this question as well?
Thank you, Priya. Very much in line with what Ian has said. Well, coping is really the kind of response that we have towards whatever life is throwing at us in the moment. And I also believe that very often this is coming from a space, not from a space of awareness, but very often from experiences. And it's almost like we become robotic in the way that we react to situations, because we have internalized those reactions. And that leads me to say that, in my view, when we are coping, it's really like we're just skimming the surface. Whereas when we're taking the challenges up front, I feel that we do that from a space of deeper awareness. And that becomes in itself more transformative, because this is how I feel we can broaden the perspective or create the mind shifting, as Ian was saying. And that particular moment, within a split of a second, he had shifted the way he was looking at somebody driving. Now, we all have different coping mechanisms. Some of them are healthy and some of them can be really very unhealthy. And I think where the focus is when we allow ourselves to spiral down into those very unhealthy ways of coping. And to me, what happens there is that we either spiral down further or we just stagnate and create repeated patterns, so that eventually this is what we know and we just learn to cope. Along with that comes a lot of emotional and mental drain, I would say, as alongside with that, our emotional intelligence takes a back seat. It doesn't come in the forefront. Now, when that happens, I would think we tend to lose the deeper perspective of things. And when we lose that perspective, we also lose opportunities for growth. And there is a chain reaction, because that creates self-doubt. That creates like our sense of self-efficacy that can go down. So I think it creates a lot of chain reactions within us. Later, maybe I'll have the opportunity to share from my perspective of, being an NLP practitioner and a personality practitioner, how different people would react differently. But when I look at it from the lens of behavioral patterns and really personality dynamics, just for now, it takes me to a quote that I like to use a lot of times. from, I believe, Einstein, I don't know if it is, and it's that challenges, well, basically adversity introduces man to himself. It's whether we take up that invitation to discover ourselves at the deeper level, or we want to skim the surface. Thank you.
Beautifully said, Robina. Thank you. I'd like to hand over to Julie as well, please, to contribute towards this question. What are your thoughts on this, Julie?
Let me just unmute myself. I think I've done that properly. Look, I want to echo what's already been said by Ian and Robina. I think it does come down to like that perception and that chain reaction that does happen that leads to it. And honestly, from my perspective as well, coping mechanisms are good. They're, they help you survive in life. That's a really good thing. But now that we're in this world and we're seeing so much change around us, we also want to be able to thrive in it. And I feel like that's the difference. You can just get through life, whatever life stories that someone was saying before. But really, if you want to keep transforming and getting to your next, who you're meant to be, because I'm the way I am now is not what I was like 20, 30, 40 years ago. So you either accept things that are coming to you and go, hey, in terms of perception, I can either cope through this and use my learned experience and what I knew from my parents and my family and my friends and my community. And that's fine. Or I can choose to be a bit more open. And like Ian was saying with the driving thing, I do that with the parenting thing. Can I just say, in my life, I have to rewire my brain and actually stop myself and go, actually, is this a teaching moment for myself and my child in how I rewire my brain when he's doing something that I don't agree with and how I'm going to react to it. And then he transforms into someone he's supposed to be. And I also then hopefully will transform into a parent that I need to be as well for myself and for him. So I feel like it's that, for me, it's that dichotomy between surviving and thriving. Nothing wrong with surviving, but honestly, the world needs us to thrive. And I hope everyone else can do that here too, because you'll impact others. Someone you might not know it now. You might go, oh, but who am I doing this for? Not just for yourself, but it's for others as well, because you just never know who's also going to come to you and go, actually, I saw what happened to you. And that was really powerful for me. I'm now going to be motivated to get out of my healthy or unhealthy coping mechanisms, which are fine. Well, maybe not the unhealthy ones. Sorry, let me caveat that. But to just be able to become a bit more of who you are, to grow into you, if I can say that. Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you. And Jane, I'm very interested to hear your perspective on this question as well.
Okay, thank you. I think my answer is really a combination of everything that has been said. And I probably look at it a very practical way. I think we never really know what we're capable of, who we are, unless we rise to challenges. If we're going along in life and everything's great and things are pretty even keel, you don't know who you are or what you're capable of. And I think we're all capable of doing more and all capable of so much more than we really think. So I think the concept of merely coping almost sounds like it's masking or trying to ignore. So you're just sort of trying to ignore it, leave it alone. And I think by merely coping, you really miss out on the growth opportunity to understand more about yourself, understand more about what you're really capable of doing, and potentially learn some new skills along the way. And it's just a growth path. So yeah, so I suppose that's really my thoughts.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with everything that's already been said, and I just want to echo everyone for your very insightful words. I want to say thank you for that. Definitely, when we think about the repercussions of merely coping with challenges, it is essentially having this inability to look within ourselves and ask ourselves, what is it in me that needs refining? When we face challenges, those challenges bring about things within us, things that I guess we can think of them as triggers, if that's a word that we want to use these days. But they're an opportunity for us to become aware that this is something inside of me that I need to change. And when we cope, as it was already mentioned, that we're masking what the limitation is within us. We're masking that when we're coping with the challenge. We're not allowing ourselves the opportunity to transform, to turn things around for ourselves. So that's, I guess, just my little share there. And so with that, I'd like to move on to the next question now. So our next question is, what should our approach be when faced with challenges? And I'm going to mix up the order a little bit with our panel members to keep things interesting. I'd like for Rabina to contribute to this question first, please. Thanks, Rabina.
Thank you, Priya. Based on everything that has been shared under the first question, for me, the first thing that we need to do, and because we're talking about challenges seen as opportunities, is really to develop this ability to reframe within our mindset, within ourselves, to reframe those challenges into opportunities. One way we can do that is to shift ourselves when we find ourselves slipping into that coping mode or mindset, is to ask themselves, all right, there's a challenge in front of me. And now what I've trained myself to do a lot is to ask myself, what is this situation trying to teach me here? What am I not getting here about myself in the first place before I even, externalize? And to me, I think this kind of awareness is key before we can progress any further. I feel it's very important for us to understand our mental patterns and our mental triggers when we're faced with challenges. And that, in a way, can better define what kind of reactions that are more appropriate for us to overcome these challenges, but also to learn from those challenges so that we can become more proactive in the way we deal with things. Because as we all know, that if nothing changes, well, nothing changes at the end of the day. And secondly, shift from that mindset of a problem focus, maybe to look at things, well, all right, this is asking a solution from me. What can I bring as a solution into this situation? And I feel that somehow we get stuck and we create those limiting beliefs within us through those repeated coping patterns that we develop. And in that sense, those limiting beliefs, they become our own self-sabotage. But what we do is we tend to put the blame externally on the environment, on other people, on other things, rather than looking inwards. So the first thing for me is really to be able to have that inner lens, as I call, so that we can move forward. And one of the other ways that after doing that we can start moving forward is about really visualizing ourselves, stepping into that solution. I think, I'm sure a lot of the panelists here would agree that visualization remains a very strong tool in terms of patterns of behavior change. So it's really to train our brain to look for the solution rather than to overanalyze the problem. And I think growth happens when there is action and not just insights. Once we have those insights, it is important, therefore, that we break them into manageable bite-sized steps to take us where we need to go. Right. So thank you, Priya.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. Beautifully said. I'd now like to actually hear from Ian. Interested in knowing your views on this question as well. Thanks.
So I find it really interesting because most of the time when we have a challenge in front of us, we are in the challenge and without actually realizing where we actually are. And so, I think one of the other panelists said it's about having the awareness that, hey, right now I'm stuck in the poo, as it were, and what do I, is there a different way of doing it? So the classic example would be, say, I get, let's say my beautiful wife triggers me and all of a sudden I can feel resentment or anger or frustration. And it's about having the awareness that actually I've just gone into what I call a primal state, which is, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn at a very primal level. And I'm feeling bad, sad, or mad. And it's not anything to do with what's going on here. It's just old stuff that's come up for me. And it's got nothing to do with my wife. It's got nothing even to do with me. It's just old stuff. And from that place, I can go to, okay, and I think I said it before, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, or I'm having the thought that, oh, I've done something wrong. Because, I mean, that's my pattern. My pattern is always, oh, what have I done wrong? 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 And as long as I'm in that loop, it's very challenging to get out. So the key is to have an awareness of what's actually going on in between my ears, recognizing that it's not even true. None of it's actually even true. It's just old patterning, old behaviors, old, from our domestication, our socialization. It's just old programming. And having the awareness to go into that, and then from that place, you can then make different choices.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, thank you. I'd like to hear from Jane. What's your views on this one, on this question?
Okay, so I think to have challenges is to live, and it's part of our lives. And in that way, I feel challenges, we should have a sense of gratitude to challenges, that we're alive. It can be exhilarating, it can be blood pumping, we can do more than we've ever done before if we have challenges. And I think that's really to be welcomed a lot of times. And I wanted to give you just a very brief story, but I was once in a situation, I had to get lawyers involved. It was something that I got dragged into a situation that I was completely innocent. I didn't want to be there. And I was very angry and upset about it and having to face with this problem. So I was in the boardroom of the lawyer's office and I looked up on the wall and I saw a plaque and it said, in the loving memory of this guy. He was born the same year I was born. He died the same year that my daughter was born. So this guy, my daughter's 20, had missed out on 20 years of life, and 20 years of amazing, wonderful, beautiful life that I've had. And I thought, I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be here. And the fact I've got challenges is I'm lucky. I'm the lucky one, because it is part of life. So I think, first of all, a sense of gratitude that it is part of life and we're alive. I think a sense that it can drive us to new heights. It can drive us to achieve things we never thought possible and to learn things. So I think, first of all, though, when you're faced with really big, complex challenges, is to sit in that challenge, not try and cope or deflect or try and analyze it too much. Just sit in that challenge, be comfortable with that challenge, and I think have a sense of gratitude for what you're about to achieve, and then start working through, challenge your mind and to come up with new creative options and ideas, and things that you never thought possible, and put those into place. And I think the other thing is something that Ian alluded to is don't get overwhelmed. Sometimes challenges to solve them has lots of things to cover off and quite detailed, but don't get overwhelmed with too much. Take it a day at a time, and as long as you're making small steps towards achieving the goals, you're doing fantastic. And those small steps will add up, and eventually you'll reach the results that you need to. So I think a sense of gratitude and embracing the challenges, I think, can be really helpful.
Thanks, Jane. Yes, no, really well said. Julie, what are your thoughts on this question?
So I won't repeat what the others have said because I do agree with everything that the other panelists are saying. So I just want to end with, in terms of this question, your worth is not in question, because as everyone said, you can't stop challenges and you can't stop changes. That's just the world we live in. And it's a good thing because we grow, we modernize, we become hopefully more understanding of one another. So, and I also agree that you have to learn to accept the situation you're in, and you should also learn to accept that it's okay to have certain feelings that might not be considered positive, because it's not a great situation to always be in. But once you've, as Jane was saying, sat in it, then not only do you have to learn to accept it, you've got to action it, as Rabina was saying, like action needs to occur. And I think that's really important to approach any kind of challenge that you do face, and also be curious, be courageous about it. As Rabina was saying as well, like, what will this teach me? And if we can just focus on the issue rather than the person or the other people involved, that kind of reduces those negative feelings, and that, I have to finally do this because there's another person on the other end. Actually, if you're just looking at the situation and just the issue that you're trying to resolve first as the moment, like taking it step by step, that actually helps you then have that perspective to lift up and go, hey, what is it teaching me about myself? And what's it teaching me about others? Right? Having that level of compassion and empathy does matter. And you grow into that as you learn to deal with an issue, but be kind to those around you, be understanding. And I feel like that's the approach I take, and it's worked a lot. I must admit, I'm not perfect. When I was younger, I might have been a bit more brash, a bit more judgmental. I've matured a lot since then. So yeah, that's all I've got to offer on that one.
Thank you, Julie. Absolutely. I am very grateful for the fact that all of us here together today, we all have a synergy with the way we feel about these questions and the way we've experienced challenges in our lives. The challenges are really interesting. Having the gratitude is an absolute must for sure. And essentially, as has been mentioned by our panel members, when we're faced with our challenge, it is about asking ourselves, what is this situation trying to teach me? What is revealed about me through this challenge? So challenges are actually, the way that they're being perceived is really the mindset shift that we need to make within ourselves. Because challenges may appear to be a form of disruption, like it's there to disrupt my life, it's there to disrupt my pathway. But actually, challenges are there to disrupt you, to bring you onto your pathway, to align you with your highest purpose, to align you with your highest self. So that's what I'd want to say on that one. And with that, I'll move on to the next question. So the next question is, how can we face challenges while remaining unaffected by them? So for this one, I'd actually like to ask Ian to go first, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a tough one because how do you face a challenge when you're unaffected by them? But the fact that you're affected by them means that you're already in it. And so therefore, how do you pull yourself out of it to have at least the awareness to be looking in on it and saying, oh, this is actually challenging me or affecting me. Because most of the time we're so in it that we're not looking from it, we're not working on it, we're busy working in it. And so the challenge is really the way I see it. If you are coming to me and say, okay, well, how do I do this? I'd say you have to practice awareness. You really have to start to practice, and whether you use waking meditation or any type of thinking meditation where you actually can sit and observe the crazy that goes on between your ears from a point of view of observation rather than from a point of view of acting on what's coming through. But that takes practice. That's what I call it's a meditation practice, because you've got to stop and you've got to look and you've got to say, oh, well, and just without engaging with the thought. Because often as not, if you don't engage with the thought, if you just let it come, it's like a bubble. It just like comes and just poof, it goes away. But it's when we grab onto it and we engage with it, and now we've got a whole story going around it, and now we're involved in it, and now we're in the challenge. And then how do you pull yourself out from that? Very difficult, because you're in it and you emotionally charged by it. And again, as I said earlier, you've now moved into often as much a fight, flight, freeze response, and you certainly can't be creative from that place. So how do you do this? You have to practice managing what goes on here. And the only way you can practice that is through mindfulness training.
Thank you, Ian. Absolutely beautifully said. I have like a cliffhanger question, but I'll save that to the end. So I'd like to actually hand over to Julie. I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this question, Julie.
I agree with Ian actually, because that was how I actually prepared to answer this question, which is mindfulness meditation. I do mine on a weekly basis in terms of my schedule, which is really busy. I know it's not ideal because my coach says to try to do it every day. It is very challenging for me to find that at the moment. So what I do have is like a journal where I have my leadership vision, which actually reflects not just my corporate life, but also what I want for myself in life. And I reflect on that every week. So I carve out some time every week to look at it. It grounds me. So I don't know if it works for everyone else, but I am on my coach's naughty list because I only do it once a week rather than daily, but she still speaks to me. So that's good. That's a good sign. So that's what I do. And it first helps me figure out, how has my week gone? I know I'm going to have another tough week. This is who I am. Again, my worth is not in question. What am I aiming for? And that helps me just realize what my purpose is. It also gives me a moment to reflect and go, did I learn anything in the last week? And do I need to amend my vision, right? Because it's growing. You grow as a person, you're not static. So you're allowed to do that. So it's a really good check-in point. Another thing I do with some of my very close girlfriends is that we keep each other accountable. So it's up to you if you want to find. So I do agree with like the whole mindfulness stuff, but for me, because I have so much noise in my life, just with where I am in my career and in my parenting at the moment, I do have a set of allies, you would say, I go to just make sure that I'm on track, that also remind me to take care of myself. It's okay to do things for me, to fill up my tank. And I know people say it a lot, but I personally didn't start doing it until late last year, and it's changed my life, honestly. It's okay to be a bit selfish for me, right? Even if it's half an hour to watch this like crazy Korean drama or read this like book that a girlfriend said, just give it a read. And I never really read fiction, but you know what? I'll give it a go, right? That kind of stuff, just to give me a good laugh, make me feel alive again. So I feel a bit like me. It helps me then feel more open to change as well, because I have a little bit more feeling like myself. So when things come at me, I can stop and go, huh, how would I deal with it, rather than just react with it based on my experiences in the past, right? Which has been clouded by the way I've been brought up, right? And the way society tells us we need to act as well. So it's a really, so I do take time for myself, and I also do try to make sure I carve out time to reflect on who I am and amend that as I go. Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you. Rabina, I'd really like to hear from you as well on this question. Thank you.
A couple of things from me here, Priya. Extending what Julie and Ian have been saying about awareness, I think here I bring in the perspective of personality. I mentioned earlier. It's important also, I feel, for us to realize that we all have very different coping mechanisms and the way that we progress about addressing challenges. You might have some people who go in total avoidance, for instance. Others get caught in busyness. And others would be over analyzing, and they go into that in their mind quite a lot. So I think that awareness, we have to take it to a very deep level to understand, all right, what is my default autopilot coping mechanism here? Before we can do anything about it and find a way to get ourselves out of it. The other thing that I would say, and that I think is very connected to what Ian said as well, I feel, and I take that from my own very self, we fail sometimes to separate the facts from the emotions. And I feel this is something very important for us to train ourselves to do. As humans, we react to the emotions that situations are creating, whether involving other people or not. But the facts are the facts. And that's why I said earlier, to become more of a problem solver, to be solution-oriented, and to not over-focus on the emotions. I totally agree with mindfulness practice. And the important thing is, to me here, is the ability, to separate your own identity from the problem. It's not like I have failed or I am not achieving this. Why is this happening to me? It's rather, what is not working here? What did not work? What should I be changing in the way I tackle things going forward? But not to internalize it as the problem almost becomes our identity. And agreeably, arguably, that requires a lot of emotional agility to realize whether we are reacting to things or are we responding. And then something, as a last point, is also simple something as reach out to somebody else. Walk away from the problem, be it for 5 minutes. Just change your perspective. And I take that from a very personal example, something that I never allowed myself to do in the past, maybe because I worked strategically in a men's world, essentially, and I felt that, you had to rise to situations. But today, it's a different case. When I feel stuck in a problem, I reach out to somebody and have a conversation with somebody. Someone will bring a perspective that it can be very useful. So that's my take on this third question, Priya.
Thanks, Rabina. Thank you. Jane, I'd really like to hear your views on this question as well.
Okay. All such great ideas, and 100% support what everyone's already said. I think I would sum it up in terms of be kind to yourself, and treat yourself like your best friend. and talk to yourself nicely about what's happening, what's going on. And, so I think sit in the problem as well. And it's not about deflecting, avoiding, sit in the comfort and be comfortable with change, because problems represent, I think, opportunities, but also represent change. And that's difficult. It's really, really hard for people to go through that. And so I think it's really important to sit in that and absorb and let it softly and gently impact you. I think the mindfulness is absolutely critical, the meditation, just that way of calming the mind and just being comfortable in what's happening. So I think a couple of things around being kind to yourself. It's really important to understand that to be human is to have challenges, and to live and have life is to have challenges, and there's nothing wrong with you. It is just part of life, and it's how you deal with it, how you cope with it, what you learn from it, that is the really important thing that comes out of it, and how maybe you can embrace it and treat challenges as your friend rather than trying to fight against it. So, and I think the other point I thought is, it is just a moment in time. And sometimes when we're faced with challenges, they're incredibly big and incredibly difficult. But in time, you look back on those challenges and you won't see it as such a big problem. So I think just being comfortable with yourself that it is just a moment in time. And at some stage, that pain or the angst that you're going through will be a lot less. And I think it's sometimes really hard to understand exactly, what am I getting out of this? What am I learning? What's the lesson? Sometimes that's not always obvious up front.
You are asking something
So,
that I mean,
so it's okay to have some perhaps frustration with that, but just sit in that feeling and that and comfort, and know that that will come. And in time, this what you're experiencing will have meaning. And will have valuable meaning for you and for your future.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, all of you, for contributing to this question. Again, I absolutely agree with everything that's been said. I found it was really interesting. We were also talking a little bit about how challenges can be emotionally provoking, can be emotionally charged. They can come to us in that way. And absolutely, I do agree that it is in that moment that we must not run away, that we must sit with the challenge. And here, as a matter of fact, we have a beautiful opportunity available to us right here within our bodies, and it is our breath. See, our breath is the one thing we have available to us that anchors us in this moment. And we've been talking about mindfulness as well today. So this is in perfect alignment with these mindfulness activities that are carried across in the world. Having that awareness begins with having an awareness of your breath. Because when you have an awareness of your breath, you create this gap between your mind and your body. And it is in that gap that you have the utmost potential to change what you are going to do, to change the action that you're going to perform. Because we all know that when we are emotionally charged, we are functioning from a different place. And we also know that the emotional charge we feel, it lasts temporarily and then it passes. And we come back to our reality. And usually at that point, we feel regret, we feel shame, we feel embarrassment. So it is our breath that is the main carrier that holds us in this moment. The more we can become aware of our breath, the more we can see these types of emotions rising to the surface when we have these challenges. And as a matter of fact, it is our breath that is the connector between our emotions and our thoughts as well. It creates that gap. It is the key that is available to us to disrupt. And I mean disrupt here in a really positive sense. But of course, I also do want to mention here that when we face challenges, it is not what is happening to you, it is happening for you. So I guess at this point, I am really interested in hearing from our audience. I can see we've got someone who's switched on their camera. So hello, welcome, Shalini. I can see you're in a public place and maybe it's not appropriate for you to turn on your mic. It might be loud, but it's really great to see you switch your camera on. It encourages more engagement. I'd love to hear from all of you, our lovely audience. What are your thoughts? What kinds of comments or what kinds of ideas are coming to you right now as we are here in this space discussing this topic? Thank you. And as you type here, I'd like to open the floor for us to maybe talk a little bit more about this concept Ian was referring to about emotionally charged and how we become emotionally charged when we're in the midst of a challenge. Ian, please do elaborate, and if all panel members would like to switch on their mics, they're also welcome to just make this a really free-flowing discussion. We do have a few more minutes, so please let's continue.
So, look, you know, when you've been on the planet for a while, you start to recognize that things trigger you, and they have an emotional charge on them. And the challenge is to recognize that you are not it. You are not your thinking. You really aren't. And it's about separating yourself from your thinking. And like I said, the only way you can really do that is to practice. And you have to practice through mindfulness. So, you know, wonderful exercise that I do is and it's not even meditation, really. It's like if I'm driving, instead of listening to a podcast or listening to a book or what have you, I'll just sit and be a fly on the wall of my of the crazy that's going on, and just watch it, not engage with it, not act on it. So even if the thought comes, oh, I need to call so and so, no, not right now, because right now I'm just watching my thinking without engaging in it. Because what that starts to do is you start to see that there's a difference between you and your thinking. But if you grab onto a thought, before you know it, that thought has become a story, and now you've gone down a road, and now who knows what else is going on. And it's about catching it early enough and not actually engaging. But often, as much as I say, when you are emotional, you're already too late, because you've already gone down that road. So until you can start to practice and have more awareness of, okay, this is typically what gets me, or that gets me, or this gets me. Now you can start to see it, because you know, that stuff doesn't go away. That you know, I talk about a salty cake. If you bake a cake and you put too much salt in it, that cake is always going to be salty. Okay, it doesn't matter how much icing sugar you put on it or jam you put on it, it's always going to be salty. And we've been brought up with our own salty cake, but it's about recognizing, going, okay, that's just my salty cake coming up again. And then being able to change in the moment. But that takes awareness. And the awareness is from the practice of going, okay, I see my crazy. I am not my crazy.
Thank you. So there's it's something that's come out in the chat, so I just wanted to comment on this as well. Thanks, Ian, for mentioning that. So in the chat, we're seeing a comment that says there is always an outcome, the known and the unknown. So we should be ready for both. The known outcome is for our good. The unknown outcome is for our highest good. So does anyone have any thoughts on that one, on that comment? We can also just take a moment to just sit with that for a moment.
I can just comment on that, and I think it's just such a beautiful, fantastic way to look at life and to embrace life. So thank you for the person that said that. You've just really made me think that to looking at life in a more positive growth manner, I think is a great thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Do any of our other lovely panel members have anything to comment on this before I move on to a question from the audience? No.
Very much in line with everybody.
Can I just say that if you have an expectation of an outcome being a certain way, then you're not open to whatever shows up. And so if you can just be open and not say, well, it needs to be this way, because if it needs to be that way, that's just from your programming. It's just from your socialization, or it doesn't have it. But when you're open to everything, but attached to nothing, that's where the growth is.
Beautifully said, Ian. Thank you for that. Absolutely. So the question that we've got from the audience is, when caught in the middle of a challenge, it is difficult to rise above and to distance ourselves enough from the issue to find the solution. So what would be the top 2 to 3 tips to be able to do this almost instinctively? This one's coming from Shalini. Thanks, Shalini. Happy for any panel member to go first at this point.
I can jump in first if that's all right. And
Please.
So honestly, this, Shalini, is something I struggle with, and it's a regular thing that I do have. So what has worked for me is that I've come to a realization, I'm not perfect, but I'm worth it. Right? And so is everyone else out there. So if you can, because this is that issue with looking at things with the emotion and a person versus the issue. So if my worth is not in question and the other people who are irritating me are not, their worth is not in question, then it helps me to focus on an issue, right? So that's my starting point. That's my first major tip. It takes a while to get comfortable with that. Sometimes I know it sounds weird to say that, and my parents loved me very much. It's just that there's things that happen in your life that make you feel not great, and that adds and that kind of subtracts from your self-worth. But that should never ever be in question, and we should never ever question someone else's self-worth as well. Once that's locked down and becomes part of your psyche, that helps you kind of untangle a bit more about the issue. Because honestly, there are some people in my life that will always irritate me. That's honest, right? It's just the way it is. But if I can say in my head, that's fine, because they're still lovable. I can still love them. I just don't have to always agree with them. That's it. The issue is where I disagree, and that's okay. And that's, again, untangling like the rational side of things with the emotional side of things and getting that out of the way. So in my head, I actually try to deal with the emotion first. Go, worth is there. I respect that, you respect that, and then I deal with the issue. I also have some, again, really good friends I lean on who give me perspective. I also, as a few of the panel members have said, take a step back. I take a moment because I know I don't have to react in that moment anymore. I choose to take the higher ground and go, I know you want an answer from me, but just give me a bit of time to deal with this. I go and seek counsel from some very trusted people in my life. I don't always, again, we're not the same way. We don't think the same. That's why I also love them very much. They have very different life experiences, and they give me perspective to help me then grow into it and go, this is another way to approach the issue. And then hopefully, it resolves itself you just got to be okay with that sometimes.
Thank you, Julie. What are your thoughts on that one, Jane, on that question that's come through from the audience?
I think, yeah, I think just sort of being comfortable with it, and not just being kind with yourself as well. I think that's really important, not to criticize yourself, to agree that it's okay to have feelings, and it's okay to be like that. So yeah, I really agree with what Julie said. It's hard to add anything to what you've said, Julie.
Rubina,
Yeah.
really interested in hearing your
Yeah.
views.
I just wanted to add to that, and thank you, Jane and Julie and Ian. Shalini, just to share, I would also like to reinforce on what Julie said. I think we find ourselves overwhelmed when we like absorb the emotions more than we should. The important thing, I think, is to be able to focus on the facts and not allow ourselves to be consumed by the emotions, knowing that it's okay for me to feel emotions. It's okay for me not to feel okay about this situation. But, and I take it from myself, sometimes you just sit there and you run the movie in your head. None of this is likely to happen or has happened or anything. It's completely devoid of any logic or anything. So once you focus on the facts, then you can start to look at within yourself, what are the strengths and competences that I have within me to help me cope with what's on my plate right now? Because surely if you're in front of something, there is something you've done in the past that can help you to move forward here. And that you can only do when you're looking at the essence of the problem. And the second, since you asked for 2 or 3, I'm giving you a second one. What has also worked for me, because I've been extremely good at running the movies in my mind and going places, is to train myself to do one little thing. The moment I see myself spiraling and spiraling away and getting that overwhelmed, I just tell my brain, switch. I just use that word. I've trained myself over time and say, switch. And switch to something pleasant, which I've practiced over time. And I've found that over time, the moment I do that, I feel the pressure go down, because your mind will listen. It can't think of 2 things at the same time. So it's going to switch, whether it's to a beautiful sound or the sky or a cake that's in front of me, and suddenly there is a little something that shifts. So it brings that overwhelming energy. I'm sharing it has worked for me. So these are 2 maybe additional things I could share for you.
Thank you, Jane and Rubina. Ian, really interested to know your thoughts on this question as well from Shalini. Thank you.
It's kind of hard because everybody's said such awesome things, and I'm listening to, I love what Julie said about that everybody has worth, everybody has value, and it's only our own stuff that is saying, well, no, it's my way is better than your way, or I see it this way. And really, it's the old 6 and the 9. You're just seeing it as a 6, whereas someone else is seeing it as a 9. And if you can take a moment and go and have a look from their perspective, you might see it as oh wow, I never thought of it that way. And I think that's the whole point of everything that's been said. And so if you can change the movie, and because we are in charge, it's like we get to choose what movie we want to run. If you want to run nightmarish movies, then that's your choice.
Yeah.
But it's about having the awareness that you are not your thoughts, you are not your thinking. And if the moment you can get that, it's a bit like, once you see it, it's not a snake, it's just a piece of rope. You can't unsee that. And once you can get that your mind is just a function of all of its old programs and stories, but you are not it. You are not your brain. Okay. You are connected to, a much bigger universe. And from that place, you can then take another look at it and say, well, really? I mean, just ask the question, if I was God, how would I handle it? Really? From that perspective, it just makes the whole thing so small, whatever your version of God is, right? So it's just a case of really understanding that you are not your thinking. Your thinking is a function of your programming, of your domestication, of your socialization. And what you're showing up to your problem with is dragging all of those branches right here. And the only way to get a different perspective is to, like the other panelists have said, ask yourself the question, how would Donald Trump handle this? How would Tony Robbins handle this? How would it doesn't matter who you choose. How would Dr. Wayne Dyer handle this? Okay. And if you're really stuck, go to ChatGPT and say, here's the problem. How would Wayne Dyer deal with this problem? And you'll be just amazed at the answer that will come.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone. Definitely. And I guess, this the thing with challenges, they can be emotionally charged. And so we can extend what has been already echoed in the panel, that we are not our thoughts. And we can extend that to say we are not our emotional charges either. And it is through our breath that we can create that gap to see that for ourselves, to see it unraveling in front of us. And always knowing, as Julie pointed out very aptly, that we are all worthy and we are given these challenges to help us to grow, to come out of our old habits or belief systems, whatever it may be, to move closer and in more alignment with our highest purpose. So I love that we have had such a fruitful discussion together today, and I'm very grateful to all of our panel members. Thank you for all of your amazing insights here today. Thank you to our audience who have joined us here today. I just would like to close our webinar for today by just mentioning that if you haven't found us yet, we are on LinkedIn. You'll see the QR code at the bottom right of the screen. Please do find us on LinkedIn, Abhyas Mauritius. We have webinars happening every week up until the end of May under the theme of mental health and well-being. So please do keep coming back. And here at Abhyas in Mauritius, for those of you who are dialing in here within Mauritius, we have free corporate events every Sunday. These events are all about promoting environmental sustainability, grounding practices, and connection in nature and with ourselves. And of course, with that, we have retreats coming up in 2025. So please do check this out. And of course, these retreats are for everybody. Wherever you are dialing in from, you are all welcome. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Just to end saying that these webinars are hosted proudly by Abhyas. Our next webinar that we have coming up in our series is called Rebranding Ourselves for a Better World Tomorrow. And just ending here on a final quote from our founder, the highest peak of one's performance can only be achieved through synchronization of body and mind. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us here today. Have a really great day, evening if you're dialing in at night. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.